Yo, we are live, baby. If you guys can hear me, let me know. Because I don't want to continue if this ain't working. I think this is the earliest one I've done so far. From all the streams I've done, this might be the earliest one. Let me just tweet it as well. Let me just tweet it. We can hear you. Wonderful, wonderful. Let me just quickly tweet it and then we're good. Perfect. We're live. It's 1 a.m. in here. I get it. Different countries. But we've got a special guest today. I don't want to keep him too long because of course the time difference is not the best. But if you guys don't know who this person is, he is a Real Madrid media person. He's already got his own podcast that he does with a fellow Barcelona person, and he's got his own YouTube channel as well. So if you guys don't know, his link is in the description. Go subscribe, go follow that as well. And with no further ado, let's bring Kiyan on. Bro, how are you?
What's up, bro? How you doing, man? Good to be on the channel. What's good?
I appreciate you for coming on, man. I appreciate you for coming on despite the short notice.
I got you, man. I got you.
Perfect. You're a person which I've been trying to get on. A lot of people, whenever I do podcasts or whenever I do streams, they always tell me in the comments, bring Kiyan on. So I was like, you know what? It's time to make it happen.
Glad to be a part of it, man. Glad to be a part of it. Anytime someone wants to talk about Real Madrid, I'll chew their ear off. So we're talking about Real Madrid. I'm here.
Perfect. This actually takes, before I go to the stream itself, the way I like to start my streams is I like to ask a simple question just for me to get to know the person.
Okay.
How long, before I start though, how long have you been a Madrid fan for?
The cliche answer is I've been a Real Madrid fan before I was born. So the way it all started was my father, decades before I was born, was living in Tehran in Iran at the time. He watched the 1966 European Cup final on a small black and white TV with in his living room with like a bunch of family members gathered around sitting on the floor. And that was Paco Gente and the Yeyes. So immediately after watching that game, he's like, I'm in. He was a Madridista. So fast forward decades later, he actually moved to Spain from Iran. He went to a bunch of games at the Bernabeu. And so I like to say I was born with that, because every time, growing up, he was watching games on television, whether it was World Cup, whether it was Real Madrid games, he always threw it on. And it took me some time, like up until the age of 10, I was like, I don't care about this, man. But then like once World Cup 98 hit, I was like, okay, this is actually cool. And then my first Real Madrid memory was Mihatovic's goal in the Champions League final against Juventus. That's my first like flashbulb memory I can remember. So really like at that age, I was like, okay, cool. I get it now. But, it's all thanks to my dad, really.
No, for me, it's the same. I was raised into a Madrid household. The first game for me was the 2002 Madrid, Leverkusen, the iconic volley of Zizou, of course. But of course, during this over 20 years of you supporting Madrid, what's your best moment as a Madrid fan? And you can't say La Decima.
Right. Yeah, because La Decima is all of our number one answer. Like there is no other answer than if you're alive for La Decima, it's by default your number one. Although I will say this, so it really depends on how old you are. Like I have a friend, Eduardo Alvarez, who some of you guys might know. He works for us too. He has been a socio for over 30 years. He's had the same seat in the Bernabeu. He said the bigger moment was Mihatovic's goal over Ramos's goal because he said the drought for Mihatovic's goal was 32 years. Yeah, so like it meant it kind of like it just felt more special. But anyways, if it's not that, I love the Zizou moment for sure. I just remember going crazy in that moment because I was like, I didn't know this was possible. I was 13 at the time. I was like, how can someone score a goal like that? I get physics, like that's insane, like worth every penny. Like I just remember losing my mind at that moment. So probably Zidane, in that final was number 2
Nice,
after
nice, bro.
Ramos's goal for me. And then I'd go like not a specific moment, but just the final against Juve, the 4-1, because it
Domination.
just felt like we were so dominant and so good and so clearly superior to everyone else in the world. And it was one of our best teams ever. I feel like that it's not a specific moment, but just the overall picture and Cruz just clapping as he's getting subbed off. And of course,
Oh, yeah,
someone in
yeah,
the
yeah.
chat is saying Rodrigo come back versus City. Yeah, everything that happened last season was up there
Was
too.
was exceptional. No, no, listen, it's a good choice. It's a good choice. Rodrigo, of course, exceptional goal. What's your worst moment as a Madrid fan?
Damn. Most heartbreaking, I have 2. One is the Bayern Munich penalty shootout loss in
Ah,
2012.
that's
I
hey, that was the first time I've ever. I didn't think it was possible. That was the first time I cried over football.
Yeah,
When Jose was on his knees. Yeah.
yeah. It's hard to think of a more heartbreaking moment than that in sports.
Mm,
You know,
mm.
it was
Especially having both
devastating.
Ronaldo and Kaká missed both penalties as well. The best 2 penalty takers. Yeah, it was heartbreaking, man.
You know, man, like I've had my heart broken in relationships before. You know, nothing was ever as soul crushing. No girl, nothing as that moment, and just the sunken, helpless feeling of just sitting there in front of the television. That was the final was in the Bernabeu that year. It was our
Mm-hmm,
year, and so that one
mm-hmm.
really hurt. Um, Going all the way back, Luis Figo had a penalty miss in Turin against Juve in 2003. That was, I felt like, our best Galactico team, despite not being able to win the Champions League. That would have sent us through to the final against Milan. That would have been historic. That's another one. And then I was at, I mean, remember that season where Lopetegui got fired? Solari comes in, Solari gets fired. That season was a mess, but there was one week in particular, one stretch. It was called Hell Week. We had Barca twice and Ajax, and we were eliminated basically from every competition within the span of a week. And I remember being at the Ajax game and the 4-1, and it just felt like you were in Amsterdam because the Ajax fans had taken over the stadium.
Yeah, yeah.
Everyone in the streets were singing. Like it felt like very rock bottom. So that one was really tough. Just like being there, part of it was tough.
No, that season in general was. I think it might be one of the worst seasons we've had over the past decade or even 2 decades, going all the way back to pretty much the 2000s. But let's go to one of mine. It's a bit weird, and you might laugh at it. As a good moment, not as a bad moment, as a good moment. But even though we lost that game, it was 12-13 Ramos against Dortmund when Ramos scored that a second goal. We lost that game, but for me, I've never celebrated so much because a part of me felt like the comeback was about to come.
Yeah.
It wasn't
It's the
dependent on
hope that kills you. It's the hope.
It's the hope that kills you. I thought, cool, 88-minute Ramos scores, we can score another one, but that was heartbreaking.
That was tough. I remember that because I was like, I felt like, oh my God, are we going to do it? No way. Because like before the game, I had no expectations. We were down by so many goals. I was like, all right, I'm prepared to lose. But then I think because it was so close at the end, it would just, it hurt more.
It meant, yeah, exactly. And it was Jose's final season. But anyway, let's go to the main topic itself. Let's talk about why we're here. We're going to talk about this season from Real Madrid. But our season, in my opinion, and I don't know about you, but it's determined really from one person. If this person joins Madrid, our season can be put into different words. If he joins Madrid, I think our season will be very successful. If he doesn't, I don't see us winning anything major. And his name is, of course, Kylian Mbappe. Before we talk about everything, what do you think of this whole Madrid saga, Mbappe saga? Do you think he's going to join us? Are you part of the people that want him to come? What do you think of the whole saga itself?
I don't even know where to start to answer that question because it's quite loaded and like it's just something we've been talking about like nonstop for not only this summer, which I didn't really necessarily see coming, but I just remember that day he rejected us last summer. I remember saying, like, because everyone was so mad,
Yeah.
obviously, like he was public enemy number one. But I just remember saying in that day, this is not over. Like, this is gonna come back next summer, the next summer, the next summer, the next summer, until this guy literally retires. This is not going to go away until he either joins us or retires.
Yeah.
So I was kind of mentally prepared that we're going to talk about it. But where am I in the camp of, like, do I want him to sign or not? It's so funny. Like, Faysal, I'm sure you see this too, because you run a big podcast. So people like you see a wide range of opinions, right? That come in.
Yeah.
So, like, from what I've seen is the spectrum, there's the Madridista who says, F this guy. I don't care how good he is. That guy has disrespected us, rejected us.
He's toxic. He's everything.
He's toxic. He's going to cause problems. I don't care how good he is. No. And then there's the other extreme, like, bring him at all costs. I lean towards bring him, because what I care most about is trophies and goals. And I think that he will take this team to a different level.
Correct.
And I think, like, I don't know where you, like, I'm interested to know what your thought on this is, but, like, people will forgive him the first hat trick.
Absolutely.
It's done. Like, everything will be forgotten. That's the way, like, the news cycle moves so fast in this sport. People just forget quickly. And if he's bringing you trophies, he's scoring 50 goals this season, no one's going to remember that he chose PSG for more money like a year ago. So I lean towards, if you can bring him, bring him. He takes the team to another level. That's it. And I will mentally prepare myself that some problems may arrive with that. Like, I'm sure in 2 years he'll want a bigger contract. Like, his mom will say something in the media. I'm prepared for that. But that's a trade-off I am willing to accept in exchange for trophies and goals. That's the way I look at it.
Bro, I'm with you 100%. I find it hilarious that a lot of people say he's betrayed us last season. How can we go and get him? But what I mean, it's football. Everyone has been betrayed. I feel like our season, like I said earlier, is really dependent on Mbappe. I don't think, me personally, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, because that was going to be my next question. I don't think our season, next season, I don't think we're going to win anything major without killing Mbappe, unless we sign a Harry Kane-esque player, which I don't think we will. So if we go next season with Jude Bellingham, Brahim Diaz, Fran Garcia as our only signings, and Arda Guler, of course, I don't think next season is going to be successful. I don't think we're going to go far to Champions League, and I don't even think we're going to win La Liga. The question is now for you, though. If we don't sign Mbappe, because me and you both want Mbappe. If we don't sign Mbappe, what happens to next season?
It's going to be tough, because you've experienced a huge downgrade from Benzema to Joselu. I personally, because the way it feels to me is like people expect a plan B to Mbappe as if it's Kane. I don't think that's going to be plan B. I really, really think plan B is going to be, we're going to give the number 9 to Alvaro Rodriguez. Like, I honestly think it's like Mbappe or nothing, because nothing essentially means for Real Madrid next summer. You get him.
Yeah.
And that's the way, that's the kind of the biggest, that's why it's so risky to do this. It's go bigger, go home. Personally, I think Kane would fit this team like a glove, because prototypically he is perfect for what the void Benzema leaves as a link-up striker. He's perfect. But if you're going into a situation from next year, you're Joselu and Alvaro and Rodrigo as a false 9, I don't know if you're going to get enough goals. I don't think you are. It's going to be a struggle. So I agree with you. I think next season is going to be pretty tough. As excited as I am for Bellingham and Arda Guler, it's going to be tough to find enough goals, even if everyone chips in.
I agree. I don't think Giselle is going to start, even if Mbappe doesn't join. I see next season Rodrigo as the false 9. I don't think Ancelotti has got faith in just Joselu or even Alvaro. Like, towards the end of last season, he didn't give him no chances after he scored against Atleti. Yeah. But let's say, for argument's sake, let's enter next season with the optimistic that Mbappe will join, which I think a lot of reporters have been saying that for the past couple of days. I don't know what to believe now. I don't know if he's joining or not, but let's say he will join. What is the front three in your eyes gonna look like?
I think Rodrigo misses out, possibly, because and I don't think he should. Like, I think Rodrigo has earned a starting spot. It's not necessarily my opinion, but I think, like, with the reports in the past few days of Bellingham playing in a diamond, I think it's in part because we have so many midfielders. Possibly the only way to squeeze enough playing time to keep everyone happy is to play Bellingham in a more advanced role, or Fede in an attacking role, and it's possible that Rodrigo loses out in that situation. So you're looking at something like Mbappe and Vinicius with Bellingham just behind them, and then you have, in my opinion, the undroppable Camavinga, probably one of Kroos or Modric, probably Kroos, and just work your way there. Like, you have the midfield will shape itself, I think. But I really think that, like, Bellingham, there's a good chance he plays in an advanced role. And if not, then it's just a straightforward 4-3-3 with Rodrigo, Mbappe, Vinicius, and then you push Bellingham to midfield, and then the midfielders are going to lose out on minutes, some one way or the other.
Of course. That was going to be I was going to talk about the midfield in general. I feel like a part of me feel like Arda Guler is going to somehow be into the equation towards the middle of next season. When we first signed him, I thought we were going to get him and then put him back on loan to Fenerbahce. But I feel like after seeing the trainings and after seeing the reports saying Carlo tries to trust him, I feel like he might have a crucial role for next season. Who do you think is going to be impacted the most by Mbappe's arrival in a negative way?
I guess, like, in order of the depth chart, like, Rodrigo, I guess, would be number one. And then you're going into the Arda Guler territory. Like, my boy Sergio Arribas will probably never see the light of day. Like, it's over for him. The dream is gone. I love that guy.
It's gone. It's gone, man.
Yeah, it's gone.
Let it go. Let it go.
Have no choice. Gotta move on. Yeah, I don't know, man. Because, like, the thing with Guler is, like, and then there's, like, Brahim Diaz, who I know, but he is just another name who's going to be there. Like, and if you think about it, we don't really have pure right wingers in the squad. Rodrigo likes the left more. Fede is more of a midfielder. Brahim Diaz can play on the wings, and then it's Arda Guler. So at least from, like, his unique profile, I think it really suits Guler that he is a rare right winger in the squad, as a left-footed person who can provide some symmetry. He's actually unique in that sense. So for that reason, Ancelotti may prefer him. I just don't know how much playing time he's going to get. Like, what do you think? Like, you see all these training videos, which kind of, like, I feel like in some ways it's a little bit overrated on social media, because, like, today he scored a goal where he, like, there's no one around him. He might as well be the only player on the field, and he scores, like, from point blank range. He curls it. It's a nice goal, but, like, it's a training session. People are losing their minds. This guy is unreal. I have no doubt he's a talented player, but I think you need to, like, pump the brakes on the hype a little bit. But, like, I don't know, where do you see him fitting in? Do you see him on the wing? Do you see him in midfield?
I see him, the only position I can see him is the right wing position. I feel like we're stacked in the midfield, and I feel like my observation is for next season that the one person who's going to be impacted the most is Fede. Because throughout the whole last 2 seasons, we've seen him as a right winger. Because the midfield was always, the first season was KCM, and last season it was switching between Camavinga and Tchouameni. But next season we're too stacked in midfield, and the only position which I can see him is the right hand side. But if Mbappe joins, we've got Rodrigo, we've got Arda Guler, and we've got Fede. I feel like he will be impacted the most, because I don't feel like Ancelotti is going to play him in the midfield. I feel like Jude Bellingham, in my opinion, in Ancelotti's mind, he's a non-starter. And Kroos, I think, in Ancelotti's mind, he's a non-starter as well. So now it just comes down to Camavinga as a 6 or as a left back, Tchouameni, Modric, and the rest of them.
Yeah. There's, like, very few positions left with a lot of players competing for those positions.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's, like, it's unknown to me. Like, people keep asking too, like, what's the best combination? In some sense, I feel like there is no real wrong answer, because, like, if you put, like, any combination of these players together, it should work. Like, Camavinga and Fede and Tchouameni with Bellingham in front of them, that should work. Bellingham in midfield with Camavinga and Kroos, that should work. Like these are all great players who can do a bunch of different things. The one combination that I'm kind of like skeptical about and worried about is like I don't think you can go into next season starting Modric and Kroos together.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
I think that's going to be problematic. And I also think I'm fine with one of them starting because in the end, experience, but both of them starting, taking away precious developmental minutes, but also just the athletic two-way ability of all these young players, that's going to be problematic. But I do think Kroos' skill set actually complements Bellingham, Camavinga, and Tchouameni and Fede Valverde because he's got that long-range progressive passing ability. I think he complements them a little bit more than Modric in that sense. But this is fascinating, like because we can theorize all we want about it.
Yeah.
We have no idea how this. And I personally believe, because you'll see reports in the Spanish press of like this is what's going to happen next season. I don't even think Ancelotti knows. This is like because remember last season, was it last season or the year before? The year before that, it must have been when he started Hazard and Bale on the wings, like for the first like month of the season, and then like it, so like he'll change his mind throughout the season. Like he might think of something now, but then once he sees it up close, tries different things, like who knows? Maybe like Ceballos is in January. By January, Ceballos is like the first guy off the bench based on form. I don't know. Like it's hard to predict these things.
No, I hear you. And I feel like I want to talk about combinations that you want to see and I want to see. But let's talk quickly about Vini and Mbappe. We both know Vini's a left winger, Mbappe's a left winger naturally, and Rodrigo's a left winger. So next season we might see us having 3 left wingers start in all 3 attacking positions.
Yeah.
What do you imagine the duo of Vini and Mbappe to be like?
Similar to Mbappe and Neymar in PSG, where I think it's they can both play on the left, they can both drift centrally, they can be interchangeable, and I think it's a dynamic that's going to look pretty good. I think it's going to work, and I'm not too worried about it. A lot of people are like, "Well, why are you signing him? He doesn't want to play down the middle. He wants to be on the left." Like, if he decides to come here, there's no way he doesn't know that he's going to have to be more versatile. He knows Vinicius, who's arguably the best left winger in the world right now, based on form, for sure in the past 2 seasons, what he's done in the Champions League and La Liga. He's not going to be displaced, even for Mbappe. So like Mbappe has to have that understanding when he comes here. And we've seen it work with Neymar. Like it's devastating when those two link up together. You can also see variations of the way Benzema and Vinicius connected, the way Benzema and Cristiano connected. I think it's going to be similar. One thing I know for sure is that it's going to be very left-sided heavy. I don't think we should expect complete symmetry next season or even in the next 5 years. I think it's going to be similar to, remember when Isco was here on the diamond, Cristiano Ronaldo was there. Everything goes to the left, and then Kroos just like pings that diagonal to Carvajal, who's wide open because the entire field is on that side. I think it's going to be a similar dynamic to that. Unfortunately, Carvajal is like a shell of himself now, so like I don't think he can do anything with the ball when he gets it. But I think it's just going to be similar to Mbappe and Neymar. I think that's a good like example we have of how it would work.
Absolutely, and it helps having Fran Garcia at the left-hand side, progressive runs, overlaps. Do you feel like, this is my observation, and I'm curious to hear what you think. Do you think Vini's productivity and his output will decrease with the arrival of Mbappe?
I don't think. I think he'll probably have more assists than he had this past season. If he's feeding Mbappe, possibly his goals might flatline. I don't know. Similar to like, when the Benzema and Cristiano Ronaldo dynamic was there. Ronaldo just scored way more goals, maybe. But I feel like they'll kind of amplify each other. I think Vinicius really needed help. Like, wouldn't you agree this past season?
Absolutely.
It felt like he was so alone, especially like with Benzema's injuries and his form, and then Mendy being out of the lineup. And even when Mendy was there, he wasn't really helping Vinicius. Camavinga helped a little bit more. But like, I just feel like Vinicius really needs like a wingman to really feed off of. I think this will amplify him. I don't
I
like.
agree.
I'm not too worried about like goal tallies, but I feel like it'll just be better for him.
No, I agree absolutely with you. I'm very intrigued to see how both of them are going to work together, because I don't think we're going to have Batman and Batman. I think one of them have to compromise to being a Robin. So
Sure.
I'm very interested to see who's going to be that person. I don't think Mbappe, in terms of ego, is going to allow himself to take to step back. So I think the person is going to compromise. It's going to be Vini. But then again, I'm worried now with Vini taking the number 7 shirt and him having that franchise aura about him. I'm interested to see what he's going to do next season with someone at the status of Mbappe. Because 2 seasons ago, he had that with Benzema, but he was just progressing to become that young player, talented. Now he's already a superstar. So can he work with another fellow superstar? That's what I'm interested to see. But let's see. Let's see how it's going to work out.
It's a valid concern, man. Valid concern.
Let's see it's going to work out. Go into the midfield combinations. Is there a specific combination? Let's say, all right, Classico or a knockout stage away from home, quarterfinal, semi-final. Which combination in your eyes would be the most balanced and the most suitable?
I'd like to see Bellingham and Camavinga. Like those are, to me, are my 2 non-negotiables. I know Bellingham hasn't played a single second for us yet, so it's kind of premature. But just based on what we know about Bellingham, how great he is already, and what he can contribute on the field as a ball progressor, and how hard he works on defense, and how great he can just be a creator, invaluable. I think him and Camavinga just proved it. I think those 2 are non-negotiable. I think Cruz complements them really well too. So I would go something like Cruz. And I don't love Camavinga as a 6, even though he can play there. So I would look at something like Tchouameni, Camavinga, Cruz, and Bellingham in a diamond. That's what I would look at. And
going 16, 17 season in.
Similar. Yeah, similar.
16,
yeah.
17
I think it gives you a nice blend of control, defensive stability, and pressing ability. And it kind of pains me to say, because that probably means Rodrigo misses out, unfortunately, if Mbappe's here.
If Mbappe's here. Who do you think Ancelotti will be leaning towards in that 6th position? Because, of course, Tchouameni, towards the end of last season, Tchouameni never got the chances that he should. I personally think he should have started against Etihad.
I agree.
He sees Camavinga. I don't know what Ancelotti sees in him. Is he a left back? Is he a CDM? Is he 8? Is he a 6? I'm still confused on what his vision is with Camavinga. What do you see? Who do you think fights, or even Toni Kroos can somehow experiment that 6th position, which I think we should never ever see? What do you think? Who takes that role in the 6th position next season?
First of all, I agree that Tchouameni should have played that game at the Etihad. I don't think I honestly, I think ultimately we would have lost that game anyway, because the gap between
Have
both
some hope, man.
but like, look, we have to do our best to mitigate the damage and decrease the margin of, the gap between, and then, like, from there you get a goal, you get momentum, and things can change. So I think you have to do your best to give your chance to win. And I think Tchouameni should have started that game. What I think it would have ultimately made a difference in that game is that Camavinga was really struggling at left back. As soon as Ancelotti moved him to midfield in the second half, he looked way better.
Way better, yeah.
And also, we just lacked a presence between the lines to get ourselves out of the press. And Camavinga's great at that, like moving where he needs to move as an outlet. He couldn't really do that from left back position. So I think Tchouameni should have started for one of Modric and Kroos, and then Camavinga should have moved to a midfield as well. Like, those 2 things should have happened. But I think Camavinga's best position is center mid, like as an 8.
As a left-sided, yeah.
Yeah. What was your question? How does Carlos see it?
No, who do you think starts as a 6 for Carlo Ancelotti? Because I feel like,
right,
for me, I see Tchouameni as a 6.
Yeah, me too.
And I feel like next season, I want to see more of a double pivot role of Tchouameni and Camavinga. But I don't think Ancelotti. I think Ancelotti is too obsessed with the 4-3-3.
Yeah.
So how would you see Tchouameni's impact for next season?
4-2-3-1 with Camavinga, Tchouameni double pivot would work really well. I think that they complement each other. They also can be interchangeable. We've seen that in the past. I think it was early last year they started together, and you would see Tchouameni would go up the field like Casemiro style, and Camavinga would drop and
Yeah,
cover for him.
yeah,
They understand each other. Um, I I don't think Tchouameni was as bad as people made it out to be last year. I think he was fine. He had some bad luck. He had injuries. It's his first season in a new league in a new country. Like, have some patience with him. I also found it a little bit weird how many times Carlo like publicly called out Tchouameni and
mm,
didn't have the same standard for the other players who were underperforming. You know what I mean?
correct,
It just felt
correct.
like he had a different leash for different players, and it wasn't purely on meritocracy, like who was on the field. But I see Tchouameni as the best six in the team. You just need to be a little bit patient with him, let him grow into the role. I think
Mhm.
I would start him. I don't know how Carlo sees it because it felt like Carlo lost some trust in him and ultimately preferred Camavinga as the six in certain games. Um,
I
Camavinga played
agree.
well there in some like that game at Anfield. He was awesome as the six.
Absolutely, and it's weird to me because beginning of last season, Tchouameni was the starter. He was the guaranteed starter. He was, in my opinion, our best midfielder heading into the World Cup break. I think at one point I read somewhere when once the World Cup started, he had the most blocks, he had the most interception, he had the most progressive run. So he carried that midfield. It was a bit unfortunate. He had that injury post World Cup, didn't help him as well. But it's a bit weird. He never gave him. He didn't look at him at once.
Mm.
Um, what do you feel like Modric is there for mental support? Does he have a specific role, or is he just there for a last dance remontada season and just call it a day?
I don't know, man. Like I feel like this has got to be the last year for Modric and possibly Cruz. But every time I think that, it's just it keeps. I think like with Modric, what we still see his genius. So I don't think he's there only because of his name or his leadership. He's also there because he's really freaking good still.
Mhm,
I just think with Modric is that if you want to see his genius in a Clasico or a Champions League, the great performances at a genius level are starting to become a little bit fewer and far between with him.
mhm,
Whereas when he was a little bit younger, and by little bit, I mean even as far as like 2 years ago,
mhm,
he he was doing that consistently. Whereas now I feel like it's harder for him to dig deep and get that week in, week out. So in order, if Carlos sees him as the guy you want on the field in those big games, then I think you really need to rest him much more in between the games.
mhm,
And I think that's going to be difficult to juggle because Modric in the past himself has said, I play worse if I'm rested. I need to constantly be playing so that I have rhythm, right? And so it's hard. Like, I don't know what the exact science behind getting the best out of these players is. That's why we have smart people like Pintus to figure that out. But like, I don't know. I guess that's the concern is like, how much trust do we still have? Like someone in the chat says Modric is currently still better than all our midfielders other than Camavinga, arguably Cruz. I mean, like, the thing is, like, at a yes, possibly like as a ceiling,
mhm.
but I don't think that is true on a game to game basis. And that's what I think Ancelotti needs to juggle and give more minutes in between. If Modric is going to play the big games, he can't be playing every minute. And I also think, as I said earlier in the podcast, I don't think he can be paired with Cruz consistently either. That's going to be tough.
I agree. I agree. Before I continue, I think someone mentioned the mic. Your mic is going in and out towards the end. I think I don't know if it's the wire. I don't know if it's the
All right, let
microphone.
me do a quick 5-second unplug and plug back in. You carry the conversation for 1 second.
Yeah, of course, of course. No,
Yeah.
I can't agree with you. I feel like Modric next season. I think his biggest role is going to be support, and I feel like mentoring Jude Bellingham and mentoring Arda Guler in a way. I still feel Guler's going to have an impact somehow, and I feel like I initially thought, like I said earlier, I thought initially he was going to be loaned out to back to Fenerbahce, but I feel like for some reason he's our only natural right winger, and I don't see us playing any other formation than 4-3-3. So I feel like towards the end, mid next season, towards the end of last season, end of next season, sorry, I feel like he's gonna have that right wing position. It's going to be a similar emergence as Vini had a couple of seasons ago when Eden Hazard was injured and everything else. In terms of very quickly, I wasn't going to discuss it, but we might as well. In terms of the back line, of course, Carvajal is our only right back. If we want to consider Vasquez as well, Militao, of course, and for me is guaranteed. Who do you want next to Militao? Is it Alaba, Rudiger? Who's your preferred option? And I can't hear you. No, I can't hear you.
What about now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
And is Mike better now?
Much better.
Okay, cool. I'd go Militao. I don't have a strong preference between Alaba and Rudiger. I really trust Alaba because he is, I feel like, a good complement to Militao's aggressive defensive nature.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a great ball progressor. So is Rudiger. I feel like the Militao-Rudiger partnership can be good, but they're also very similar in their profile. I feel like Alaba balances out a little bit. So I don't have a real strong preference about this, but I agree with you. Militao is the undisputed one. Despite the mistakes he can make in the season, I just feel like from the start of the season to the end of the season, he's the best defender we have. Absolutely. The real one, like, I don't understand. Like, we do such a good job, Faysal, of not caring how many midfielders we have and just signing more. But we don't seem to have that rule about right backs.
No.
Why are we not signing a right back? We clearly need help in that position.
I think we were very close to signing a right back last season, last summer. But then Dani Carvajal gave us between April and May, gave us 2 seasons of prime Dani Carvajal. And I feel like the board and Paris was like, you know what? We trust him to do the same thing. This last season, we didn't see none of that. I'm still very baffled and confused why we didn't sign Cancelo last January when we were given the option by Man City. I don't understand why that wasn't given a choice. Tobias, we haven't seen none of that. I've seen some Madrid fans say on Twitter, we should try hijack the Fresnada deal to Barcelona. I'm not a big fan of him. I don't feel like he's going to help us massively, in my personal opinion. You might disagree on that. I feel like the only person who we could have grabbed and the only person I want is Reece James. But now with his injury problems, is he going to come? Hakimi is an option, but he's got his own personal stuff going on. Who is there? Who is there to be? Who's the perfect right back? I thought Pedro Porro was the realistic options before he went to Spurs. So there isn't anyone out there. I mean, what's your thoughts?
The market sucks. So I don't like whoever you would sign now is not going to be your long-term solution. It's just someone to just immediately fill in and help. Like your point about Carvajal and the level he went to in that Champions League run, like against Liverpool, Chelsea, those were the 2 main games, right? Against Paris, he kind of got cooked, but that it's great to see Carvajal raise game in those games. But again, same problem. You're not going to get that from Carvajal every week. No chance.
Absolutely.
You need someone else in between. Like you said, Vasquez is not a pure right back. I do find it funny. Like, you'll see it in the chat here too. People are suggesting it. And we've seen it so many times too, like throughout social media and just running these podcasts. People ask like, hey, what about Fede Valverde? What about Eder Militao? Like, isn't it just great? All of our solutions are just to play players out of position. That's where we are. That's where we're at. We need a right back. Militao is fine as an emergency right back, or like sometimes, like with Brazil, I thought he was decent there in the World Cup. It's pretty good actually. Fede Valverde, that's not his game. He doesn't have that defensive. Like, we've seen him play right back a few times before. One of them was pretty good at Anfield. The other few times he's played there defensively, he looks a little bit positionally. He looks a little bit lost. So for him to actually be good at that, he needs to play that a lot. And we don't really have time to just develop Fede Valverde into a right back. We need to just sign someone. But you did bring up a lot of good points in that. The market is not great. You look at the names. Fresnada, not that exciting. Doesn't attack that well. Defensively, he's solid at least. Cancelo, I think I would have taken a flyer on him because I don't know if he would have stayed, because for him to stay, you still would have had to sign a big transfer fee this summer, and it was kind of a red flag to me that Bayern and City both like didn't seem to want him. He's not that good defensively, but like there was no risk, in my opinion, to bring him mid-season on a loan. Because you could have, if it didn't work out, okay, didn't work out. You're not committed to him. You don't have to keep him in the summertime. So you could have taken a flyer on him. Who else did you mention? Pedro Porro. Train is past, but
he was our only option, to be completely honest with you, before he went to Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, another one. I mean, in hindsight, maybe I don't know if it would have made sense anyway. But Chelsea signed Malo Gusto last summer, I think it was. That was another right back that was available. The market's not great, so like whoever you get, it's going to be just a temporary stopgap, in my opinion. Vinicius Tobias, I've watched a lot of him in Castilla. Extremely raw, bad decision making. Can go either way with him. He makes really frustrating choices with the ball at his feet, makes mistakes. Crossing could improve. He dribbles a lot, even when he doesn't need to. He's extremely raw. I don't think he's that much of a solution either. Well, Alvaro Odriozola, not great. Someone mentioned Frimpong. That's a good signing. Like that's a name that I would look at.
But with Frimpong, in my opinion, he's defensively. I feel like it's going to be another Marcelo situation. He's more as an attacker. He started as a right winger, went down to right wing back, and now he's been put into that. I don't know about Frimpong. I feel like he's gonna give us a Marcelo vibes on the left hand side, and having Frimpong, whose main attribute is attacking, and Fran Garcia, who's similar as well in that department. Defensively, we're gonna be cooked defensively.
But you could balance it, Faysal. Like you could have Mendy on one side, and like it could vary from game to game. It would just be good to have that option, Like
someone said actually a good option. Llorente is he said Llorente is not that good. Okay,
I thought Marcos Llorente. Yeah, I think that ship has sailed.
But yeah, I mean, there isn't anyone, and I feel like we're going to be stuck with Dani Carvajal for another season. What's your prediction for next season? How do you see us in all tournaments with Mbappe? Let's just look at next season having Mbappe in our team.
If you get Mbappe with this team, you've just signed Bellingham. You have some of the best young players in the world already. I think it's going to be devastatingly good. Like it's going to be really hard to stop that team.
Can I say what I feel and have your opinion on it?
For sure.
We are. I'm not joking. I'm not trolling. I'm
treble.
I'm not even trolling. And if you want me, wallahi, I think this. I feel like this season, I don't know why I keep saying next season. This season, with Mbappe in our team, we are going to win the treble for the first time.
I just feel like
I've never been so confident. I don't know why I'm so optimistic about this, but the imagination of me seeing Vini and Mbappe and Jude and I've got a very good feeling about it. My only downside about this season, my only downside about this season is the person in charge, not who we have. That's my only downside about Carlo Ancelotti. Is he capable to make it work? This is my opinion about Carlo Ancelotti. I felt like for the past 2 seasons, we haven't seen no tactical flexibility at all. We haven't seen anything tactically. We won the Champions League, just luck. Players, individual brilliance. Last season, he should have had that in him. We didn't see none of that. I feel like this season, the only one that can stop us is Carlo Ancelotti. Is he going not to play the players that should be playing? Like, is Jude Bellingham's going to miss out if he's got a bad game? Is Camavinga going to be sacrificed at a left back position? Is Toni Kroos going to be playing as a 6? That our only hindrance in this season is Carlo Ancelotti. That's just my opinion.
You could also argue the inverse in that if you have a team full of stars and superstars, a figure like Carlo makes sense because you really just need to coddle and guide in the slightly right direction, and you don't need to get too complex with your tactics in that scenario. Carlo always gives freedom to kind of his players to make individual decisions on the field, which unlocks creativity, I think. But it's true, like I think it was quite frustrating last season that every single person in the world knew the scouting report on Real Madrid. Everyone from me and you to Osasuna. The ball is, they're going to send the ball to Vinicius on the left wing, and he has to beat 10 players. And it was predictable. I think some of that was solved with Rodrigo being introduced into the starting lineup like halfway through the season. That helped a lot. I also think Camavinga going to left back, even though that's not his best position, helped Vinicius offensively too. So all of a sudden he had Rodrigo and Camavinga. It made a difference. But I did want to go back to your point, like how good we'd be with Mbappe. I could see us winning the double. Treble, I can't see us because I feel like we can win the league and Champions League, and then we'll just lose in the round of 16 of Copa del Rey to like FC Plumbers from Cadiz. There's like, we always like that Copa del, like last year when we won Copa, we should have like shut down the city. Like that was a monumental achievement. It's just that tournament we always shit our pants.
And the funniest thing, sorry to cut you off, the funniest thing about it, we came back in the round of 16 against Villarreal. We were 2-0 down.
The Ceballos remontada game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we don't get Mbappe, I think it's still a solid team that I think is just going to struggle in getting enough goals. That's it. Like, it's not going to be like a disastrous, but it's probably going to be like, okay, maybe you're not going to get past the quarterfinals of the Champions League, and you're probably come second in La Liga. Like, that's kind of what I'm envisioning if you don't get a striker.
Same. But with Mbappe, oh man, I've had dreams about this. I've been dreaming about Mbappe for a long time, and to see him, hopefully, again, it's not confirmed, to hopefully see him next season. Speechless. I can see us do some scary stuff. Before I go to the questions, to the quick hitters, who do you want to see after Carlo Ancelotti leaves next season as the manager? Who do you have in your eyes? Because of course there's been reports of Xabi Alonso. There've been reports of Raul. Now I feel like the only reason why his contract with Castilla got extended by another year is maybe the board is looking like, you know what, he might take over. You've got Nagelsmann, who's still available. I don't think we are going to go after him, because if we did, then we should have just grabbed him now. But I feel like Perez, I don't know, Cup in 2018, he was a big fan. Now, why is he not getting him? Who's your likely option? I mean, who do you want in general?
Yeah, Xabi Alonso is my pick.
Same.
I really like what I've seen at Leverkusen. You know, last stretch of games of their season weren't great, but I love what he's done, like just to get them out of the relegation. So I love the brand of football he plays. And I think like there's often this debate in Real Madrid circles of like tactician versus man manager. Mm-hmm. And I never understood like why we have to only choose one. Why can't we have a manager that has both? And I feel like Xabi Alonso has both. Based on small sample size, he hasn't been a coach for that long. But just based on what we've seen, like we know he's going to be a very well-respected figure in the locker room when he walks in. He means Xabi friggin' Alonso. Everybody loves him. Everyone respects him. Mm-hmm. And he has a very, very smart tactical brain. I feel like he's a really good candidate for 2024. I'll personally be watching a lot of Leverkusen just to see like how he develops this season. With now a second season, he has a whole summer now too as well with the team. He's my choice. I don't know if Raul's ready. I do think like with Raul, he himself also, my theory is that he also wanted to extend with Castilla rather than go somewhere else, because he knows if he's just like an arm's length away in Castilla, at any given moment he could be called up. Like even mid-season, like if Ancelotti, for example, gets sacked in December,
Yeah, that's a good
Raul
point.
just right
That's a
there,
good
right?
point.
The way
Yeah,
Zidane was, he's right there.
that's
It's
a
the
good
way
point.
Solari was. Like, so I think that's part of the reason why he extended. But I don't think he's ready yet. Although I will say, to be quite honest, he actually is better as a Castilla manager than Zidane was
Yeah.
at that point. So I don't know. He can still improve.
Someone said part 2 of Jose.
I feel like the ship has sailed with Jose, man. I don't know.
Speaking,
I think he was for his time.
that was actually going to be one of my questions, my quick hitters. I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it about Jose because
Okay.
I've got my own thoughts about Jose. Positive thoughts about Jose. Yeah, I mean, listen, I've got some quick hitters.
Okay.
I'm not going to take too much of your time. I know you're a busy man. One of them is I've got 5 of them, and then we'll go to a quick Q&A with it. That's a lot of people that want to ask you questions, and then one of the questions is prime San Ica or prime Thibaut Courtois.
I go with Iker, but it's close. Yeah.
Do you think? I agree. Do you think we have ever seen a better season last season? Not last season, the season before, where we won the Champions League in La Liga by any goalkeeper for Madrid?
I think it's like at least number 2, but probably number 1. But the thing with is like young Iker was probably the best shot stopper I've ever seen.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, like I know like some of our memories of him are jaded because like by the time he got to La Decima, he was just so poor. He wasn't Iker anymore. Mm-hmm. But like the thing with Iker that I found was so superhuman was that there was a stretch in the Galactico era. Like we have to be thankful for how stable our team is now. I know it, like we complain about it, but Iker, when he was playing at his peak, his defense was like old Hierro who could barely run. Helguera, Pavon, Alvaro Mejia,
Salgado.
Old Salgado. Then you had like Makaleli was long gone at that point. So you had people like Gravis and Pablo Garcia. There was no structure. He was just basically like it was a firing squad in front of him of just attackers shooting at him. It's like it was training practice. And there was a stretch where he and Ronaldo Nazario were single-handedly keeping us in games. Ronaldo Nazario would score, Casillas would save, and there was like barely anything in between. Like it was like Casillas had a very, very difficult task for years. And I know Courtois faces a lot of shots, but I feel like at the very least, Courtois has a solid defensive line and midfield line in front of him, whereas Casillas didn't really have that for years and years during his prime. And that's why I kind of give Casillas some bonus points in that regard.
I hear that. No, I mean, listen, you can't go wrong with your option.
Yeah.
In terms of forget, of course, what Di Stefano did for Real Madrid. But in terms of who do you feel like is going to go down? Of course, Benzema just departed. Who do you think is going to go down as the greatest Madrid striker, Raul or Benzema?
Benzema. Yeah. Tough for me to say because Raul's my favorite player of all time. But like, and look, if you asked this question, Faysal, 2-3 years ago, I would have been like, you're crazy. But that Benzema's come so far in his last 3 years of his career, he just shot up the Real Madrid legacy rankings. Better goal scoring ratio than Raul, was instrumental. Like what Benzema did in the 2021-2022 seasons is individually one of the greatest things we've ever seen. Absolutely. So it has to be Benzema.
For me, I said it on a podcast before, and I'll say it now as well. That was for me the greatest individual Champions League campaign I've seen by any player. The carry job that he had to do was insane. But the closest ones you can say arguably is, of course, you've got Ronaldo 16-17. You've got Messi's 10-11 where he won it. But that season, 2 seasons ago, the carry job against PSG hat-trick, Chelsea hat-tricks, City 3 goals against City.
3.
First leg 2 goals, the penalty in the second, insane.
I think the difference between what Benzema and Ronaldo did like in their respective best seasons in the Champions League was that Benzema's task was more difficult.
Absolutely. No, I absolutely agree. The third one is Gareth Bale a Madrid legend?
Yes.
Are
Yes.
you his antics over the past couple, 2-3 years, has that left a mark on his legacy in Madrid, or do you think it's minor?
Maybe, but I had decided Bale was a legend even before those last 3 years at Real Madrid. So like what happened after was kind of irrelevant to me in that legacy standpoint. I didn't understand like some of the things that people got mad at him for. I never understood. I really truly never understood why anyone would get mad at Bale for not speaking Spanish publicly, when in reality, he does speak Spanish, but he's an introvert. He's a shy introvert who does no media. And that's the thing. Like, I remember being in the mix zone in New Jersey. Remember that 7-3 loss to Atletico in preseason?
Oh, the friend, yeah.
Yeah. And I remember like I was in the mix zone and Bale was coming out and ignoring every single Spanish journalist. And I was the only one who actually was speaking English there. And I was like, hey, Bale, Gareth, can I ask you a few questions in English? And he looked at me. He was very polite. He was like, no, sorry, man. And I never held it against him because like I realized like it's not a Spanish thing. It's just he's an introvert who doesn't like media. For him, it was a 9-to-5 job, which is crazy to us looking at it. But it was a 9-to-5 job for him. He clocked in, he clocked out. There's no problem with that. I mean, we consider, for example, I always make this point. We consider Juanito a legend, right? We chant his name in the 7th minute of every game at the Bernabeu. He was a lunatic. I mean, we're talking about antics. He literally stepped on Mateus's head, like physical assault. Like we don't care about that. Like those things that like legends have done reputation. I don't know what it is with Bale, but it's just the way. I think it was because Bale was often apathetic. It just rubbed people the wrong way. I never had a problem with him. I think we all agree from a football standpoint, he is a legend, right? I think the arguments are always like subjective things, like I don't like the way he did this, like, that's subjective. And to me, he's a legend.
No, I agree. I think what started it was the banner of Wales first, Golf second, Madrid third. I think that's where it started with the Madridistas and of course the Madrid fans. Another one is, which version of Cristiano Ronaldo, in your opinion, are the best? I picked two, and you can pick your own one if you disagree with the one I've got.
Okay.
You've got 11-12, the gold season, Jose second season. You've got 16-17, the noodle hair Ronaldo. I think the most clutchest player we've ever seen. And the third one, I was going to put 14-15, the season where we didn't win nothing. Carlo Ancelotti, of course, got sacked that season. Or have you got any other season in your eyes where that's the greatest version of Ronaldo that you can think of at Madrid?
Yeah, this is an interesting question because if you're going from a production standpoint, I mean, that 2012 season was unreal. And you could probably like argue that's his peak, like even physical peak. But even though like his numbers weren't as good in that 16-17 season, there was something about that season in particular that I thought was even greater. And I can't really prove it tangibly, but I feel like it's just the way the experience he had, the composure he played with, the way he was able to reinvent himself. I thought that version of him was just different. And so I lean towards 16-17, even though his numbers weren't as good as 2012. And yeah, 14-15 is the other obvious choice where he was pretty much unstoppable. I mean, he's been unstoppable so many different seasons, but I lean towards
16-17.
16-17. Yeah.
Even low key, I mean, his first season in Madrid, the number 9 shirt.
Yeah.
He had some very good moments in that season.
Yeah.
Second last is this is just a statement.
Okay.
Without Jose, we would have never had the success that we've had over the past decade.
Say it again.
Without Jose Mourinho, we would have never had the success that we had over the past decade. Do you agree or disagree?
It's hard to disagree. laid down the foundations. I thought got us over the hump, like from a mentality standpoint. He brought that dog in us. We didn't have that dog in us up until
Oh,
he came,
yeah.
right? 3 straight semifinal appearances. I think, if I'm not mistaken, after like 7 or 8 straight exits in the
Eight
round of
seasons without
16.
it. 8 seasons without it.
8?
Yeah.
Is it 8? Yeah. So it's hard to disagree. Yeah.
Mm, mm. And the last one is who in the last 10 years during, let's say from the La Decima to our last Champions League campaign, who's the most underrated player that we've had? I'll say I've got one in mind. I've got two in
Okay.
mind. One of them, in my opinion, I think it's a disappointment. He lived to the potential. It's Isco.
Mm.
The other one I've got in mind is a bit, I don't know, you could disagree, agree, is Keylor Navas.
Mm.
I feel
Um,
like, yeah,
no, go ahead.
I feel like Isco, his 16-17 seasons, I feel like a big part why we were successful that season comes down to Isco. A lot of people thought he was part of the B team, but he did both of them. He was literally playing La Liga when everyone was rested, and then in the Champions League knockout, he was playing semi-finals and the game against Juve. A lot of people, he had a very good game against Juve. Even the following season against his second part of the season, he also had some big games as well. People forget his goal was it. I keep forgetting. Was it 16-17 where the Benzema run, where Benzema went past 4-5
Against
players?
Atletico?
Was it 16 or was it 17?
I
I think it
don't
might be.
know.
I think
It's
it
one
might
of
have been.
those. Can't remember which one
It's
it
one of
was.
them. I think it might have been the 16, 17. I think I think it is. We won the first leg with Ronaldo scored the hat trick. I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think someone just said it. 16, 17.
16, 17. Yeah.
Second one is of course Keylor Navas. A lot of people think his job was easy. Come on, he made some crucial saves throughout in certain moments of each Champions League knockout stage. In terms of league position, I think he wasn't good, but in terms of the crucial moments, I think he was there. But yeah, I mean, what's yours?
I don't know. To be quite honest with you, I really struggle with questions about overrated and underrated because I have no idea. Like, I don't, it really depends on who you ask. Like, some people overrate, Isco and Keylor. Some people underrate him. And I always struggle with that, But I agree with those choices, I guess. But like, is Isco underrated? Like, I feel like at that time we all understood like Isco was insanely good. Like, you remember it was around that time too, where Spain versus Italy in that international
Oh,
game, where
man.
he just was, everything he did was unstoppable, right?
He murdered Verratti. Murdered him.
Yeah. I struggle with these questions a lot, so I can't. I feel like I don't know how to answer this, to be honest.
No, it's perfectly fine. I think now I'll give it to the people in the chat. That's a lot of people in the chat. So guys, ask any questions you have. I'll give you guys 15 minutes before we call it a day.
Okay.
In the meantime, have you got any questions yourself? Like any quick hitters that you've got in mind, or because I'm gonna ask you something later to end it off. But have you got any quick hitters that you've got that you want to share, or?
I'm curious to know what you think about the league as a whole next season, because there's the conversation about how much Real Madrid will improve or not improve. How does the league look next season in comparison? Like, do you think Barca are better next season, or worse, or about the same?
I feel like, because I had a chat actually with Neil. We did a stream about Barcelona for next season.
Yeah.
I feel like Barcelona next season, I will not rule anything past them, but the only mental block for them is the Champions League. I feel like they've got a curse now, the group stage curse, back-to-back group stage defeats. I think if they get past the group stage, I feel like we can see a very scary side because, bro, their midfield is scary. They can
Yeah.
Frankie, Gondo, Pedri, the combinations they can play, all of them. Dembele is now back from. I rate Dembele very highly. He's now back from injury. You've got Bolde now, who's got his second season in his career. You've got Rafinha, who had a good 2-3 month stretch. They've just signed Victor Rug, who's a very talented striker. Defensively, you saw what they did last season. Defensively, they broke the all-time fewest goals conceded. Ter Stegen is moving like prime Neuer at this point. The amount of times he saved Barcelona last season. It's just Xavi. It just comes down to Xavi and what he does. But I feel like Barcelona's going to be better next season. I feel like they'll be more consistent. They are always consistent in the league. It doesn't change. I feel like every season, but it just comes down to the Champions League. But I feel like they'll be scary. Atletico, I think, will do a good job next season. I think they had a very good stretch towards the end of last season where they were competing for that second position with us last season. But I mean, what's your opinion on Barca?
I don't know how sustainable their defensive record is. I mean, if you look at the underlying numbers, they overperform their XG, and two things happen. Opponents, they did defend well, obviously, and Araujo was a tank in that regard, like individually. And also they controlled possession, so they limited the amount of times that the opponent attacked them. But their opponents missed a lot of easy chances. They won a lot of games 1-0, and I don't know how. And Ter Stegen went into God mode, so I don't know how sustainable that is. That's one thing. I don't know what's going on with Lewandowski. If it's the Lewandowski from the second half of the season, they're going to have trouble with goals. What is the health status of Dembouz and Ansu Fati? That's huge variable. Who will replace Busquets? There's no pure number 6 in that squad. There's just a bunch of players who can kind of play it. So just those are all the question marks I have, to be honest. I don't know.
Unless they signed, from what I've seen from the reports, they're very close to signing Romeo from Girona, I believe. From Girona, who could do a decent role in that 6th position. But I feel like even next season, I feel like Frankie's going to be started. Quickly before I actually go, because that's been a lot of questions in the chat. What's your thoughts of Pedri?
I think he's a genius.
He's special, man.
Yeah.
You know what? I've been saying, and Madrid fans might hate this, but I'm just trying to be non-biased about this. For me, I've got 4 midfielders in table 1. For me, I like to categorize players all-timers by tables. So I've got table 1, table 2, table 3.
Yeah.
And for me, there's 4 players that belongs in table 1. And
you're talking about all-time right now or just current?
All time.
Are you about to put Pedri in an all-time table?
No. Wait. Here we are. There's 4 players that belongs in table 1. That is Xavi, Iniesta, Modric, and Zizou. They're not in order.
No Cruz?
He is the last person with. There's 2 that's leaning towards table 2. That's Pirlo and that's Cruz. I don't think Cruz is table 1.
Okay.
But this is as crazy as this sounds. You might say, what are you talking about? The only player.
Hold on, should I put a seatbelt on? Am I going to fall out of my chair?
Do it.
All right.
The only player that I can see breaking into table 1 when this is all done and dusted is Pedri, man.
So you're projecting like 10 years from now?
10, 15 years from now, I feel like Pedri is going to be sitting next to these players, have a nice little munch, eat his main. It's not going to be a starter. It's going to be a main. I feel like Pedri's got all-timer status. Just looking at him for the past two seasons.
He is ahead of where Xavi and Iniesta were at that age, which is a good premonition for him. The question mark is always health. Like, what is going to happen with these guys? Like, Pedri got run into the ground and struggling a little bit physically. So I don't know what that means for him. That's a big question mark.
Do you have Cruz table 1?
Yeah, I do. I have Cruz, Xavi, Iniesta, Modric all on the same table for sure.
No Zizou
and Zidane. Yeah, like all of them. Yeah.
Zizou. Interesting. Cool. That's a lot of questions. The first one is from Fahad. He asked, "What's the future of Endrick with Mbappe joining?
No one knows. No one knows. Like 2024, he comes over. I think we have to temper our expectations of Endrick. It's gonna be. We have to be patient with him. Obviously, if Mbappe is here at that time, Endrick is not starting.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna be coming off the bench, and he's gonna have to impress. And that's all we know. Like we don't know anything beyond that. And I honestly believe that no one knows.
Mm-hmm.
We have
I
to be
agree.
patient with him.
I agree. It's going to be. I think it's going to be interesting to see what role he's got, and with who, which manager as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's going to come as a 17-year-old. So this question is the top 3 players of all time, in your opinion.
Is this Real Madrid or everything?
Let's just put it into 2 segments: Madrid and all time.
Okay. All time, Cristiano, Messi, and
Oh, you know what? I've got a question actually. Who's your GOAT?
I have a very nuanced answer to this, and I feel like in this day and age, that is not acceptable.
What is it? Because I haven't heard it. I'm very intrigued.
The way I like to answer the GOAT question, generally speaking, is if the aliens landed tomorrow and they said, we're going to play humanity tomorrow in a final. If you lose, we're going to blow up the earth. Who are the players you would pick to be on the field that day that would have the balls and the talent to beat the aliens? And Cristiano is number 1 on that list for me.
Okay,
as great as Messi has been, I don't understand how you can have 8 straight years in the Champions League where you turn into a ghost when the team is on the brink of elimination. Ronaldo never had that. Ronaldo showed up in every single one of those games. Even if we lost, like before, the dynasty began, he was putting the team on his back throughout the whole thing. You look at Barca's losses to Liverpool, Bayern, PSG, Roma, whoever else I'm missing from that list, because it was 8 straight years, if I'm not getting that wrong. He just disappeared. And I just don't know if I trust him against the aliens. Certainly, I'm going to have him on the field. But if I'm doing a draft as like who am I number 1, who am I picking number 1, I trust Cristiano the most in that discussion. But I do think it's more subjective than people think. I don't think it's clear one way or the other. I feel like there's too many extreme takes of like it's Messi and it's not even close, or it's Ronaldo and it's not even close. I don't agree with that. I feel like it's no matter what, it's between those two. And who the third player is, I honestly don't know, but it's between like 5 or 6 players I think you could put there. Everyone from Pele and Maradona to, even Di Stefano, who is one of the original 5 greatest players of all time. But it's those 2, 1 and 2, either way.
That's interesting.
And with regards to Real Madrid, I would go Cristiano 1, Di Stefano 2, and Benzema 3.
Benzema's already in your top 3.
Yeah, it was Puskás up until Benzema passed him for me, like in the last 2 years.
I've got Modric in my top 3.
It's a good choice too. Yeah.
Your answer, your Ronaldo Messi answer, is very, very unique. I've never heard that before.
The aliens.
That scenario is crazy. I've never heard that before.
I said that to a Barca fan one time. He got really triggered. He's like, "Man, fuck the aliens. What the fuck will you bring aliens into this?" I was like, "Hey, man, it is what it is."
I'm very intrigued this way. For me, I just think it's Messi, man.
That's fine. I don't think that's a wrong answer. But I just was like, so like, do you follow basketball?
Yeah.
Okay, so like, like when it comes to the GOAT debate in basketball,
MJ, LeBron.
Yeah, statistically speaking, LeBron has passed MJ, and it's not even close. But who would you rather have on the court, MJ or LeBron, if the aliens came?
LeBron.
You would rather have LeBron?
I would have LeBron. He's the most dominant athlete we've ever seen.
No,
bro.
No.
This is, you know what? we're gonna make it into an NBA podcast. It annoys me how people they watch The Last Dance and they've now not. I'm not specifically about you. I'm not talking about you.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the new generation of people. They've watched that Last Dance documentary and they said to themselves, "Okay, MJ's to go. Nothing can change my mind."
It
But
was an
that's what
excellent
MJ
PR move to release that documentary.
That's what MJ did though. He
Yeah.
saw LeBron slowly getting closer and closer and closer to that GOAT debate. And he was like, you know what? All right, just drop it. Just drop it next season. And he did it. But how can you? LeBron's got the most points, he's got the most assists, dominant in terms of athlete-wise. He's the most dominant athlete we've ever seen.
That's why I'm saying because when you look at it from the numbers perspective, it's irrefutable. But it's also because LeBron's played way more games and just like when you're talking about just the peak itself and the ability to be like, I'm not losing to nobody. Nobody can back this up the way I can. I just feel like nobody can back up. Like in a single game, like it's just
in a single game. Okay, in a single game, I'm more than happy to give you the option of picking MJ. He's the greatest scorer. He's the greatest, arguably the most clutchest player you can say.
Defensively amazing.
Even though LeBron's got most clutch points than him under a minute, or even more playoff buzzer beaters. But for me,
that's why there's like the GOAT of like career wise, and then there's the GOAT of like the peak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like they're two different things, and that's why I struggle a little bit with it, and that's why I think there's more nuance to it than some people give credit.
Just out of interest, you mentioned basketball. Who's your GOAT? MJ or?
It's MJ for me. It's MJ.
Yeah. Who's your NBA team?
The Raptors.
I mean,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys had a good little moment with Kawhi there. Good moment there.
We had 1 year that was unforgettable.
Absolutely, I can't blame you.
Yeah.
Cool. We have what else is there? Oh my god, there's a lot of questions. Okay, let me just pick quickly whatever comes to mind. I think we've already said that. Okay. I mean, we kind of answered. Who do you think is an adequate right back? We pretty much answered it in a way.
Yeah, I feel like we already answered. I don't know how much I have to add to this one.
Yeah, I think we already answered it.
You have to go back, Yusuf, and listen to the whole thing when it's posted.
A lot of people are agreeing 100% with you on this Ronaldo thing. Who do you think we will add as a centre back after the season? After, of course, Alaba leaves potentially.
Possibly someone that we don't know their name yet. I don't know. I'm really high on Rafa Marin, but I don't know how that translates to the senior level. It looks like Guardiola's going to City. Like, what's the latest with that?
He's going I think he's 100. Is 100 million, 105? I think he's very, very close to going.
Yeah, I would have said him, but I think he's slipping away. I don't know who that is right now.
Couple more before we call it a day. What's the first lineup you'll put to start the preseason if you were Carlo Ancelotti?
That's tough because I don't know if a lot of our players are going to be ready for the first game of the season, preseason. Because a lot of the players are joining us in the US. They're not training yet.
You know what? Scrap preseason. What's the first La Liga game? Who would you start?
I'd love to see, again, there's the with Mbappe and without Mbappe. But Courtois, Carvajal, Militao, Alaba, Fran Garcia, Tchouameni, Camavinga, Cruz, Bellingham, Vinicius, Mbappe. And if not Mbappe, I prefer Rodrigo over Jose Lu as the 9.
I agree. Honestly. You've got a good one here. Who would you rather have in this current Madrid team? Prime Ronaldo or Prime Messi?
To be honest, based on fit, we need more of a right winger than a left winger. But it would be just blasphemous to pick Messi in this discussion. we're both Madridistas. We have to pick Cristiano.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever, you know what? I agree with you. Have you ever thought to yourself, imagine if Messi had joined Madrid?
Mm.
No. What would Madrid have looked like over the past 10 years with Messi and Ronaldo?
Messi and Ronaldo?
Just Messi, no Ronaldo.
Oh, Messi, no Ronaldo. I don't think we win as many Champions League titles.
That I agree with. I agree with that.
I think we might win more La Liga titles. But the thing is, like, Cristiano did his part in all those league campaigns. Like, he's scoring like 50 goals a year. Like, what else is he supposed to do? Like, help the defense, like, you know. But I don't think we win as many Champions League titles.
Someone's asked, actually, no, I rather, yeah, I mean, this one. Where do you think Carlo Ancelotti is the best manager for Madrid?
Probably third. You have Miguel Munoz and Zinedine Zidane as 1 and 2. Munoz, who obviously was the part of the dynasty with Di Stefano and Puskás, and then Zidane and then Ancelotti, probably 3. I mean, he brought us La Decima, and then last year.
I mean,
then there's Mourinho. I don't know.
Was it him last year? There was it? Who do you think is the greatest manager of all time?
Probably Pep or Sir Alex Ferguson.
Yeah, I've got. I still, for me, it's just love, and I'm looking at it with blind love. I'm not looking at it with anything but facts. Anything. I will never turn against Jose. I will forever be grateful in what he did to Madrid. I feel like a lot of people, they underrate his task in Madrid. I feel like you mentioned it earlier, he laid the foundation for us. And I feel like without Jose, I don't think we'd be nowhere near where we were. It's just unfortunate he wasn't the person that brought the La Decima. I think if he did, his legacy will be skyrocketing. Like, it's just a shame.
But it's a shame, like, and it's funny, like, these are the margins we're doing that are like out of Jose Mourinho's control. Like, you think about, like, in that 2012 semi-final, what if Higuain holds his run? What if Cristiano, Kaká, and Ramos score their penalties? Now Jose is the GOAT. That's out of his control, right? And so it's funny how we evaluate these things sometimes, man. Like, these fine margins where we decide, like, okay, Ancelotti's amazing, or if Courtois doesn't save Messi's penalty, Ancelotti gets sacked, you know, back in the Paris game.
Yeah.
These fine margins that are completely out of their control.
That's how I feel like it's been impacted by the way the social media is. I feel like this new generation of fans, I think everyone's now, I will never be that person. Everyone is stat based now. And if you score goals, you're good. If you don't score goals, then you're not as impactful. But if people actually, if today's generation of fans, if they went back 10 years ago, if they saw Xavi, if they saw Cruz, if they saw Modric has never had ever in his career has had a double-digit goal season. Never in his career. So what is he not? Is KDB better than Modric in their logic? This new fans, the mindset, it's just completely. I think it's ruining football.
Well, this is what's happening with Zidane now. The analytics community is going back and looking at Zidane's stats and being like, this guy wasn't that good. You guys are putting these YouTube compilations of his touches and his roulettes, and he's overrated, right? This is happening right now.
I mean, I miss the time where we can just rate players just with eye test and not with and the last 2 questions, let's just leave with that, is someone asked Iniesta or Modric?
Same table. I think Modric is the best center midfielder in the history of football, though.
I agree.
Like, I don't like, this is like Iniesta and Xavi, for example. There's no way they're doing what Modric did, taking Croatia to the World Cup final.
Never.
Like, what he had to do, he had to play like as Croatia's right back, DM, CM, AM, right winger, all in one go. He was doing everything like he was Spider-Man, pulling the whole thing together. Like, he's so more versatile. His defense is better than those midfielders. It's Modric for me, like GOAT CM.
Absolutely. And the last one is not in there, but I asked Neil last time. I'll ask you as well.
Mm.
Who do you think? Okay, do you think Madrid gets to 20 Champions League first, or do you think any other team gets to 10?
Who's the closest one now?
Liverpool with 7.
Oh,
You've got
oh man.
you've got Barca. You've got Barca. I think it's got 5, and Bayern. I think it's got 6. But the closest is Liverpool.
Damn, I'm gonna pick Madrid.
I said the same, bro. I said
Yeah.
the same.
We're 6 away.
6 away. I don't see Liverpool winning a Champions League anytime soon.
Yeah, Liverpool's on the down right now.
Milan, I think, has got 6 and 7. They're in their own rebuild process. Bayern, it's Bayern. Barcelona, they don't have the Champions League gene. Yeah, I said this. I said the exact same thing. The only competition we have is Man City, but they've just won the.
They're way too far behind, though. Yeah,
far behind. But yeah, let's end it with the way I like to end stuff with. A lot of people they watch my content is hot takes. What is your hot take? It can be Madrid related. It can be football related. It can be anything. It can be football related or just football. Yeah, Madrid or outside of Madrid. Something that you think, where you think others might disagree with. Basically, a controversial opinion.
that's the thing with me. I don't have controversial opinions.
Like a controversial opinion of mine, I can give you one, which I've said a lot, and I would never stand against it. I will always stand by it. Is this guy?
Yeah.
Paul Pogba.
Yeah.
I think ability-wise, he is on the same level as Zidane, Modric, Iniesta, and Xavi. If we're just talking about ability
From a talent standpoint
only, not career, not longevity, consistency, just ability. He's one of my favorite footballers ever. He's up there with these players.
All right, I'll give you one. I don't know how controversial it is. I think 10 years from now, we're going to be talking about Camavinga and Bellingham the way we talk about Kroos and Modric. As these guys who, the greatest CMs of all time, like they're the best. These guys, like they're going to be at the throne of the discussion.
You know what I can. No, that's interesting. That's interesting. I can see it. I can actually see it. If both, I feel like Camavinga will stay as a Madrista for a long time, and I feel like, but I don't think Jude will. I feel like Jude will at one point go back to the Premier League. I don't know, just to submit himself there. I don't see Jude staying in Madrid. But you know what? That's a good take. That's a good take.
I don't know if it's a good take. It's just a hot take.
Yeah, it's just a good take. Yeah. But yeah, I think someone says, cool. Someone just said, I think he just said, I don't see Jude Bellingham staying for a long time. But anyway, brother, listen, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. I think we've been here for an hour and 30 minutes. At the moment, there's 325 people in the chat. I think at the highest it went at one point, I had a quick glance, was I think 400 something, 400, 500 something. But yeah, it was a good chat, man. It was a good chat.
Can I plug something really quick?
I was just about to say, take your stage, bro.
All right, cool. So I assume, I don't know, I think a lot of the people who are in the chat are Madridistas, I assume, because I know you're Madridista, and so I'm assuming a lot of these are Real Madrid fans. But I did want to say, so we're part of the Managing Madrid podcast. So we are following Real Madrid during preseason tour in LA, Houston, and Dallas. And we're actually doing a podcast in each of those cities live, like in bars and hotels. If that's something you're interested in doing, just like come see us. We're giving away signed stuff from the Real Madrid players. If you're planning on going to any of those games in Houston, LA, or Dallas, like the shows are either the day before the game or the day after the game. We'd love to meet you. So come out if you're going to be in that area. Other than that, Faysal, you're welcome on our channel anytime, man. So
I appreciate
if you guys want to catch Faysal on our channel at some point, come over to our channel too. Subscribe. We're still
Absolutely.
kind of new to this YouTube thing, but you know, I appreciate you giving us a voice here too. It was fun. It was a really fun discussion. I enjoyed it.
No, it's probably that's why I'm starting to do this thing. I feel like La Liga is disrespected in some way. I feel like all the eyes and all the headspace all towards the Premier League. That's why I created this channel. I've been wanting to do it for quite a bit, just to show more love to La Liga, to the Serie A, to different European stages. So thank you for coming on, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm sure
Loved it.
I'll see you at some point this season as well.
Thanks, man. This was a pleasure. I appreciate it.
Guys, thank you so much for everyone that tuned in. And yeah, man, I'll see you. The next one we'll be doing maybe next week. I've got a guest in mind. But yeah, if you haven't watched my last video, it's uploaded yesterday. It's the top 10 goalkeepers that, in my opinion, of heading to next season. But yeah, I'll see you guys soon as well. Peace.